How did you start out in business?
Well, I had a rather convoluted career. Starting out, my first job was a cowboy, going through a range of jobs before finishing university, and then I did the route of accounting, corporate finance director for a VC-backed publishing group, and then I set up at just over 10 years ago, initially working with startup businesses for about 3 years, and worked on a couple of turnarounds, and then more recently working with growth businesses. So that's the routine anyway. It was a sort of a fairly long-winded one.
And it's been quite a tough, well, obviously more than quite a tough, since 2008, it's been very tough for small businesses and startups. And you, I think, probably better than all of the people that I'm interviewing for this, understand the importance of networking, and actually communicating with your peers and your colleagues. Tell us about the importance of communities in the real world for your online business and why you created Supper Club.
I think for most people, the scarcest resource they have is time. Obviously, money comes a short one after that, and the importance of quality connections. I mean, people bang on about networking, and it's all very well going off to lots of networking events, but if you're really not approaching it the right way, or you're not meeting the right people, it's clearly a waste of time, and won't have any sort of positive impact on your business. So what we do with the Supper Club, and what I'd recommend with anybody, is find the networking groups that best represent the sort of audience that you want to mix with, and decide why you're networking. And I mean, the obvious one is obviously to generate business leads. And whilst lots of people at the Supper Club and some of the other things that we run do generate business leads, the primary purpose for them is to really meet confidentially with their peer group. So we create an environment where the quality of the people they'll meet is high, and that they're comfortable, that they'll look around the table typically and feel like they're okay, this is somebody a bit like me, same sort of stage of business. They're going to have as much to bring to the table as I have, and we should both go away with a lot more knowledge and insight than we arrived with.
Great. Now, in this ongoing recession, finance, the global financial state is on everybody's mind. But do you think we should be focusing on that so much in such a negative way?
No, it's a complete waste of time. And the reason for that is, if you're starting out, or you're an SME, even if you're a growth business, the broader macroeconomy is largely irrelevant. And of course, there are things that have an effect. The banks are not lending the way they were, and the pendulum has swung probably too far the other way from the reckless lending they went into 5 years ago. But for the most part, there are opportunities as much now as there were in the good times. And I think it's a sort of a rather a pointless exercise to sort of bang on about the broader economy. I mean, if you have a mature business that is difficult to reshape, then yes, you're going to be in trouble if it's suited to particular circumstances, and the economy's swung in a way that hasn't helped you, and your customers are searching around for new things in a way that maybe they weren't in the boom time. So if you're a startup or a small business, I would say a recession is probably the best time to start. It may not be the easiest, but it means that you build in, or you're more likely to build a business model that's a lot stronger, and it forces you to focus on the right things. And right now, clients, customers are looking for value, and if you've got something as a point of difference, then you have probably a better chance, or certainly as good a chance as in the good times.
Do you think that there are more opportunities now as well for small businesses, and certainly in terms of the resources and the way they're able to compete with perhaps the bigger brands marketing their products through social media without having to have a massive spend now? Would you say that that's the internet is an advantage for small?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, the internet's provided probably 2 or 3 very, very key things that prior to that meant if you were a startup, it was significantly hard. I mean, the first of all is its reduced capital costs. So the costs of setting up are a minute fraction of what they were 15 years ago. you can get up online, you can communicate and reach audiences, you can seek out knowledge and advice and content and insights pretty much for free or very low cost. You can find customers all around the world in a way that you wouldn't have had any hope of reaching or identifying 15, 20 years ago. So there's absolutely no doubt the internet has enabled pretty much anyone with the get up and go, the inclination, a reasonably good idea or even a poor idea to have a go at running their own business. So it's been a complete game changer.
You were one of the founders of Startup Britain. Can you sort of give me a really short synopsis of what exactly that organisation is about and why you're involved?
Well, firstly, why I'm involved. I'm passionate about enterprise. My business, Prelude, of which the Supper Club is one part, is all about making Britain the most enterprising nation in the world. So to say I'm kind of passionate, I mean, obsessed is probably a better word, about promoting enterprise in this country. And I, along with a group of 7 other entrepreneurs, got together. We're bouncing around a few ideas, one of which was something called Startup Britain, which was a response to an initiative we saw in the States. And in short, we are a private sector funded. In other words, we don't take any taxpayers' money. We do have support from BIS, the Department for Business Innovation and Skills, and Number 10, but we don't take any public sector money. We're entirely corporate, private sector funded. But we're a campaigning organisation that promotes enterprise in the broadest sense. So we work with larger companies, other SMEs, a network that we've built of local ambassadors to promote the opportunities to people who are thinking about starting a business and maybe haven't, built-in sort of barriers in their own mind. Just sort of encourage people to think about creating their own job, or to grow and take on other people. So we've launched a whole range of initiatives. One of the more recent ones was the sort of pop-up shop and the startup high street. So taking less used or unused properties rather on the high street, and finding ways for startups to get together in small numbers and take over a shop for a period of time, so it gives visibility to their product or offering. The first one started in Richmond and has proven a great success, so we're looking at ways to build a model that can roll out across the rest of England and rejuvenate high streets and give early stage businesses visibility that they wouldn't otherwise afford.
It's a brilliant idea and really actually brings the high streets back to life in a really nice, eclectic and different way as well. Is it so if people want to get involved or find out more about Startup Britain, everything's on the website, right? You just go along there, yes. Sign up. Startupbritain.org. And there's a whole range of things. That's just one of many, many projects that Startup Britain has created with the help of our sponsors. Perfect. Okay, closing off now. We've got just 2 more questions left. These are sort of, a bit more ethereal questions, if you like. What would you say is the most important thing for any small business or entrepreneur to understand or realise about the internet today?
Probably its limitations. And the reason for that is I think most people are pretty clued up on what the internet can provide, and I've alluded to that earlier. I mean, it's such an unbelievable tool. We haven't seen anything like it. I guess you could say probably since the Industrial Revolution. I mean, it's had an enormous impact. But I think it's probably the limitations that are less talked about. So, and not at all to be negative, but just to say, yes, of course, it can heavily reduce capital costs. So it means it's much easier to start up a business. But some of the things to look out for, I think a lot of people do sort of get stuck behind a computer and join online networks, and all of which can be very, very, very helpful, but forget the importance of the personal touch and meeting people face to face, and you're just simply not going to build an effective business, or not a scalable one anyway, if you're stuck just at your computer. It's important to get out there and speak to your customers or clients, to talk to suppliers, and there's nothing like sort of picking up the phone and I see and have to kind of remind sometimes my own team, that sending an email or just sending something electronic is not always the answer. Conversation or communication can be often confused in the sort of digital content, and meeting somebody face to face can make all the difference. So I think it's probably just saying, look, it's a fantastic medium. It's allowed all sorts of things, software as a service, so there's not upfront cost, there's the communication, all sorts of reaching customers, I said it to earlier, but just be aware that it's not only about that, and get out and meet people, and remember the face-to-face thing is crucial too.
Brilliant. And then finally, if you could go back in time and tell yourself one thing that you know now when you were just starting out, what would it be?
Everything will always take a little bit longer than you expect, so don't be too put off by that.